Hello, thanks for joining in today. And I hope it's not too late for you. Hope you're doing okay. Statistically speaking, some people aren't doing okay right now, but we're still at the early end of an exponential upwards curve. So, welcome and thanks for joining in with this broadcast. I use the hashtag #EnactTheDPA because that's the Defense Production Act, and that symbolizes the failure of the American federal government relating to the coronavirus, because they haven't nationalized the supply chain. They're buying all the ventilators and then asking states to buy from the distributors that the federal government has given the supplies to. So there's not a well-coordinated response out there to help Americans at the moment. And it's presumably so Trump can pit the red states against the blue states. And even though the red states are going to suffer extremely terribly from Trump's inaction, misdirection, and delays, they may still feel emotionally validated if they think that Trump has favored them over residents and citizens of the blue states. So it's up to us to appeal to the better nature of people, even if they are Trump voters or Republican-leaning independents, to say we are solutions-oriented. We want to minimize risk. We want to minimize death. Our ideology isn't so degenerate that we have descended into genocidal longing for the death of others. And the way they've got there is by describing Democrats over the years very unjustly as people who welcome the death of children. They've called us baby killers for years, and it's led them to feel murderous towards blue state voters and to welcome Trump behavior and to vote for politicians who indicated, like Trump, that they were going to mistreat voters and governors in blue states. So hi, welcome. Hi, Brian. Hi, Paul. If you want to join in, jump in at any time, Brian, you're welcome to. If you want to just relax and have a rest, that's fine too. I don't have a frontline job on the coalface of healthcare, so I feel compelled to use what energy I do have and what privilege I do have to still be here. It takes a lot to counter misinformation. It takes a lot of truth stated clearly. And clearly is not my forte. Stating things clearly is not necessarily my strength or the strength of a lot of people with a degree of tertiary education, which is why it takes practice, it takes commitment. I want to reach out to people who have felt abused by the system of meritocracy that allows people with an education to gain access to things through the status and privilege associated with tertiary education. Oh, cool. Brian's going to set up his laptop and join us. Awesome. No rush. I've got a very valuable piece of information to give to people in the interim, which is this statement here, as well as a thread to go through that says, if you have Fox in your cable bundle, you are financially supporting Fox even if you never watch their network. His cable company, which is Spectrum with a basic 10+ channel package, was able to eliminate 3 or 4 Fox channels and save him $67 per month. So he's attached a thread which gives an explanation of that, which is really important. Paul said, myself and Brian had him in tears yesterday evening. Thanks so much, Paul. That feedback's really important. I'm glad. And I've invited Brian on for as many times as he has the energy and inclination, because he's a great foil for what I'm trying to do, which is provide an information service as well as a base to touch for people who want to counter the destructiveness that's been unleashed upon America and the world. Hi, Enlighten Up. I can see you. Yes, sorry, there you are. You should give yourself a nickname. It's hard for me to say hi, Enlighten Up, because that's a directive form of a verb, imperative, and I work better with names, but I know it's you for sure. Call yourself Sally, I don't mind, but let me say hi, Sally, hi, Bob, anything. Choose your preferred pseudonym. All right, we're going to look through this very important Twitter thread about how to stop providing support for Fox News, because that is the source of a lot of the toxicity that has invaded people's thinking. And I'm here to cultivate love and acceptance, but also tough love for the bad ideas, the bad ideologies that have infected the thinking of too many Americans, giving us a critical mass of voters who vote for people like Trump and for other Republican leaders who don't have the public's interest at heart, who have deviated so far off the track from reality that they're just trying to validate their own ideas, which, like communism, are ideas that try to oppress reality to fit their model rather than allowing reality to flourish. So it's not easy to flourish under Republican leadership because they believe in punitive measures for people who are poor, and they think that's necessary for innovation and business to flourish, when that's not the case. It's not the case that by punishing poor people and not failing to help poor people, that you can lift up a society or make a society flourish. Poor people are part of the demand for consumer products, and consumer products are consumer demand is the engine that drives all economies. So sure, we want to avoid communism because that also has at its core a half-truth that by embracing justice, we don't need other considerations. Whereas we do, the human spirit needs competition to compare itself to others and to flourish and to strive. And we have secondary benefits from that competition. So the free market has its benefits and social security nets have their benefits, but communism tries too hard to just pursue that justice and equality, and Republican libertarianism, worship of guns and free markets, leads them to ignore the critical role that social safety nets play in most modern industrialized societies, and that we can particularly see the need for now as more and more people fall through the gaps of an economy that's had to be paused or hibernated because of a pandemic that, if left unaddressed, leads to even worse economic outcomes. So we'll go into the economy stuff a bit later, where I'm opening up this this Twitter thread now that I need to share with you all in case anybody has cable, or in case you know anyone who has cable. Because if anybody you know has a cable package, then they can be helped if we amplify and elevate this campaign to get people to ask their cable providers to not offer them the Fox News channels. Because Fox charges, I think, $2 up to $3 for being included in a package deal. Other channels charge $1.17. You'll see that information coming up in this thread. So Fox News is actually suffering quite severely on the advertiser front as a consequence of people's genuine and rational outrage at the constant stream of disinformation and toxic racism and hyperpartisanship, irrational levels of hatred for democratic people, for abortion rights, everything, constant misrepresentation of the facts, and constant twisting and distorting of information to feed and grow their viewers' prejudices. So let's have a look at a graph showing Fox News Tucker Carlson's paid ads per show. As we can see in that graph, we need this axis here. In October of 2018, that's a peak of 36 paid ads per show for Tucker Carlson. This downward slope here is audio of Tucker making racist and misogynist comments is released. Advertiser exodus intensifies. Okay. Oh, and this downward slope here is when Tucker warns that issues an incredibly false, destructive, and damaging warning when he falsely claims that immigration makes America dirtier. So that was an extreme that made advertisers turn off. good to know that extremes exist. So they try and push fascistic tendencies upon the American populace, but sometimes they overstep the mark and make their fascism too obvious. So Tucker did that when he said that immigration makes America dirtier. Good to see that advertisers were pulling away from his show. So we can see that there's this drop in revenue, and it rose a bit again, but it's still decreasing. So that's paid ads per show for Tucker Carlson. In 2017, Tucker's show generated about $100 million in advertising revenue for Fox News. Okay. So overall, it lost a ton of advertising revenue. They failed to meet their sales projections. So how could they lose all of that advertising revenue and still be as terrible and deceptive as they are? Well, according to this activist, Fox News cheats, and we all basically subsidize Fox News as a result of that cheating. So they could still have $0 in advertising and yet have a 90% profit margin because they have a cushion. Every TV channel charges cable providers a fee for carrying channel set during negotiations. So this is a subscriber fee. Very important. They're the most aggressive negotiator, and it's not just that they're good at it, they lie and cheat. They tell Fox News viewers that their cable company is trying to silence Fox News, and they enlist their host to spread that misinformation too. Very fascist technique. Calling everybody else the lying press and falsely claiming that they're being silenced. Taking advantage of more liberal rules that say everybody should have a voice. So sometimes you have liars who take advantage of tolerance. Sometimes you have vicious criminals who find the most noblest aspirations and seek to exploit them. All right, so CNN gets between 70 cents to 90 cents per month. And in contrast, Fox charges near or over $2 a month, which is wildly out of step, apparently, with industry averages. No wonder Donald Trump always decries the ratings of CNN or the New York Times. He's not just doing it to promote Fox. He's doing it to help Fox justify their approach. Donald Trump's got the biggest platform in America, and he's using it to artificially keep Fox News subscriber fees higher than other channels by calling everybody else fake news and saying CNN is so terrible. He's helping, symbiotically, Fox and Trump are helping them both continue to cheat and lie and hold on to power that they don't deserve to have. So yes, if they were getting similar fees to other channels, then they'd be more accountable to market forces and advertiser losses. So they have, I'm sure they're strong advocates for the free market, but they themselves are perverting the free market, insulating themselves to market forces and advertiser losses, like market force responses to their terrible content, terrible and repulsive content, and instead just promoting this fake reputation as being necessary and this fake reputation for being persecuted when they haven't really been persecuted or silenced. So right now, Fox News is in the midst of renegotiating more than 65% of all their cable provider contracts. This is the most important thing I can tell you really ever, because this is a campaign. If we can shine some honesty and alert people to what's going on, to these cable provider contract renegotiations. So if we say nothing, this happens, Fox gets more money. They could get up to $3 a month per cable contract. He shares that because it's important. Backdrop. It's happening right now. If we want to hold Fox News accountable, it's a no-brainer. So we continue to tell advertisers, hey, we're not buying your products because you have that negative association from being promoted on Fox News. And decent people ultimately do outnumber the brainwashed people in America. They're still between 30 to 40%. There's more decent people out there. Even though Fox News is the highest rated, the bulk of people still don't watch it. They just watch different combinations of other channels. So Fox is a single channel, but they are singular in their devotion to misinformation. They offer a unique service of brainwashing and lying to people who have an appetite for those type of lies and brainwashing. But overall, there's still a 60 to 70% of Americans who are turned off by Fox and who need to let advertisers know that. So the louder our voices are to advertisers, the more that message gets across to advertisers, who may then decide it's not worth the negativity associated with advertising on Fox News. So there's a few different organizations that are doing that. Sleeping Giants, with the Twitter account of @SLPNG_Giants. They continue to amplify the voices of consumers, telling advertisers, telling companies, we will not buy your products because you're advertising on Fox News. But this is key. Look at this. This is a website, Unfox My Cable Box. If you're a cable or satellite TV subscriber, Fox News is using your money to fund a right-wing political propaganda operation, as well as a deadly COVID-19 disinformation channel as well. It's more critical than ever that Fox News feel the full weight of market pressures of people's dissatisfaction with their lying, their cheating, and their active disinforming of the public. Because America's got a lot of interstate travel. You can't just go, oh, well, red states watch Fox, so they will suffer. No, that suffering that Fox News is creating by disinforming the public, it spills over to every other state as well. So Florida, people in Florida don't tell their governor to shut all the beaches or to stop making exemptions for church meetings. The virus doesn't stop spreading because of being in a church. The virus doesn't say, oh, okay, God is exerting pressure over me, I won't transmit. That's not how it works. People who go to church services in Florida will have contact with or travel themselves to blue states, to other states. We are not immune from the consequences of Fox News propaganda. So I hope that makes sense to people, and I hope people go to this website. What I will do is click here so that I can share it. Oh, sorry, Brian, I'm back now. You can cut. I will just, there. That was just very important. I wanted to talk about that even before I talk to Brian. But Brian, I'm going to message you the website now so you'll be able to get on. All right. It's always lovely to talk to Brian. All right. Okay. All right. Thank you so much for everybody for pointing me out to Brian, trying to get on. We should see Brian shortly. I've got a new link for you there. All right. In the meantime, we could listen to the audio of a nurse who resigned after 32 years. Oh, I hear a popping noise. That means I've got Brian. Here we go. Ta-da.
Hello.
Brian, how are you today?
I am well. How about yourself?
Not too bad. Not too bad. I'm concerned about America. Last night found it difficult to sleep, looking at everything, looking at all of the information. I'm now concerned that Donald Trump is actively gambling that he just lets everything go to hell in the US and hopes that enough of his voters are left alive to outnumber blue state voters, or that just everything's in such disarray that the election can't transpire as normal. And that's not a nice thought to go to sleep with, but today's a new day and I'm here and ready to join my efforts to the efforts of other people in trying to prevent that outcome, in trying to hold Trump to account, to amplify that message of enact the DPA and nationalize the supply chain Trump and distribute resources fairly to the blue and the red, as well as the red states.
You know, I had that same exact thought, honestly, wondering if Trump is trying to kill off the blue voters, for a lack of better way of saying it, just by where he's sending supplies, and his motives seem to be purely political, and it's sad. It's disheartening, because I've worked with other nurses that are working in some of those states that are affected, California, New York, places like that. And
is
I've spoken with
is
a couple
New
of them
Jersey a blue
recently.
state as well? Is New Jersey's a blue state, isn't it?
New Jersey's a blue state, yes.
Yeah.
Most of your northeastern
Coastal
states are mostly Democratic. There's a couple of exceptions. Pennsylvania is one of those. It's a swing state, but it's not really considered like the upper Northeast. It's kind of like, we're kind of here.
Yeah.
But yeah, the shutdowns, like DeSantis is saying that it's okay to go to churches and stuff like that. It's going to make it worse. People think that, oh, well, the government thinks it's okay, we can go to church, and they're just going to be spreading this around even worse than it is already. Florida has not done enough to shut down. And I know, like, my wife's entire family is Catholic, and the Diocese of St. Pete several weeks ago shut down all church masses in the area indefinitely until they deem it to be safer. I don't know that they're going to follow what DeSantis is saying. I mean, because that's the Catholic Church. They're their whole organization in and of themselves. So I'll see what they do.
Yes. So I saw some more evidence yesterday. Somebody blocked me for saying that there's the potential that COVID-19 is spread, is airborne. They said, nope, millions more people would be infected if that was the case. And I'm blocking anybody who says something so unscientific. And I was like, dude, here's some science. And he blocked me anyway. But I was a Nebraskan article that I came across that said, yep, air samples were tested as well as surfaces. And there were some viral particles in the air samples they tested. They didn't know to what degree those viral particles were active. I guess once you've captured a sample and tested it, then the viral particles are dead, and you're like, well, were they alive a minute ago in the air or not? I'm not familiar with how those work. But the fact that Dr. Fauci is now saying, yes, it's a good idea to wear a mask, I think adds to that hypothetical we should be embracing, that it is potentially airborne, that we don't know how many people have the disease in America because testing isn't widespread. We don't really even know how many people had the disease in China because China's a totalitarian government that potentially underreported deaths by a 20-fold factor. We don't know. But it does seem that a lot of the Asian countries that have more cultural habits of wearing masks, due to their histories and exposures to things like SARS, the SARS virus, other respiratory mass diseases, they wear masks, and that could be really helpful if there is an airborne component, as well as it just being a literal visual reminder that psychologically prompts people to keep their distance from each other and to keep their hands to themselves as much as possible. So I'm trying to get my husband to wear a mask if he steps out of the house, and he's stoutly refusing to do that. At least where I am, it has a lower rate because I'm living in an Asian country at present. Yeah.
I know that I've seen several people out in public here in Florida, in the area that I am in, wearing masks. I saw somebody the other day driving down the street with their windows up wearing a mask too. I thought that was kind of odd, but I mean, better safe than sorry at that point.
Maybe they don't want to take it off. Like they've put it on, they're going to get out of the car.
And honestly, that's best practice is if you're going to put it on, don't take it off until you're ready to throw it away, because you take it off, put it back on, take it off, put it back on. If there are virus particles on it, you have a higher chance of infecting yourself.
Yeah, you're touching.
That's one reason these masks, even the N95 masks, are supposed to be disposable.
Yes.
And unfortunately, we're reusing them in the healthcare setting.
Yes. Is your hospital doing anything with that hydroxide? Was it hydrogen peroxide disinfection protocols that some people are introducing? Is that getting adopted at this point? I don't know what the scientific evidence in support of it is like yet, but it was just a thing I was coming across a bit more.
I haven't seen anything or heard anything about that at the places that I work, or from any of the people that in my general area that I know of. We're still basically just using a mask for a shift and throwing it away.
Yeah.
The biggest thing is, I think that we just need a bigger supply for the healthcare workers. I think that we are causing undue possibility for contamination to healthcare workers by not having these things available, and not just here in Florida, everywhere, New York, California, wherever the biggest needs are, that's where the shipments need to go first.
And American companies have been selling masks. I think, was it $80 million worth of personal protective gear that's been sold in recent weeks and months to overseas buyers, which is just horrific to think that the federal government hasn't taken steps to halt the export of these critical supplies from America to other countries. Because Trump tells his base that he's about that. He's all about America first, and yet he's taken the opposite of steps to protect Americans and to give Americans what they need, which just underlines why having a TV president, a con man, used car salesman, charlatan as a president, who's convinced some people that his values are in the right place, that his heart's in the right place. He made noises that they heard as being the answer to their prayers. I do like what Nancy Pelosi said, because she said science is the answer to our prayers. They're like, no, Nancy, shouldn't we pray? She said, sure, pray. Science is the answer. Like, I was like, that's a good way to reconcile the approaches, because there's a lot of people that have pulled away from science. We need to bring them back on board. We can't just wait for them to die from their anti-science embrace. From their
pray that the scientists come up with a solution.
Yes. And to attend to the solutions that the scientists have already provided, which is to maintain social distancing. And then we need the social scientists, i.e. the economists, who say, in the interim, you have to prop up some businesses, but prop up consumer demand, like not let your consumer base die of poverty. Basically, those checks should be getting sent electronically to people instead of Donald Trump forcing people to distribute checks with his signature on them so that he can take credit, as totalitarian governments do, because everything is about optics rather than actual viable solutions to problems. I'm all for putting pressure on Trump to increase the amount of pressure he feels to adopt solutions that everybody acknowledges is the right thing to do. That's why I always want to be amplifying things like enact the Defense Production Act, i.e. do more to force companies to start producing supplies that Americans need. Domestic production of masks is quite low, and the US government is asking countries to send over gear, protective personal equipment, even as donations from the US government have just left American shores. So, yeah, I can bring up a resource for that soon.
I did see a tweet, and I was trying to see if I could find it real quick to see if I could quote it. I want to say it was Dr. Dina Grayson,
Yes.
but I'm not 100% sure if it was her. But she
You
was
can
saying
bring up
that
things on the screen as well.
Yeah, well, I'm on my iPad looking for this real quick, just trying to see. I was trying to make sure I was quoting the right person, but I think it's her, that she said that basically the numbers of infections we're still seeing are proving that people are not social distancing the way that we should be. People are still going about their normal daily activities. And I think until there is some type of a forced action by the government,
Yes.
that we're spinning our wheels here in the United States. We really are.
Yes. You're undermining the actions that have already been taken, and so much sacrifice has already been made. It needs to be more consistent. People need to use the terms like physical distancing to show people that it's not just be antisocial, but physically stay apart from each other if you have to go out. Stand apart in a queue, wear a mask, It's not just wash your hands. There's so many more things that measures that people need to adopt to even hit that best case scenario of 250,000 people dead. That's the best case scenario that the Trump administration can offer the American people, because he failed so abysmally in containing the virus in the early stages, even as we had that example happening before our eyes of Italy and of China and of Spain. And just warnings. And people have published now or leaked the warning that the army gave to Trump, saying, yes, there will be a lot of people that die if we don't take this seriously. And he persisted in not taking it seriously for personal partisan reasons of aiding in a strategy that he thought would work, of pretending the coronavirus wasn't serious, writing it out, minimizing test availability for Americans so that if people died, we wouldn't be able to attribute those deaths to the pandemic, that we would just say, oh, a bunch of people died from the flu this year. That appears to have been Donald Trump's early hope of preserve the economy, don't alarm the stock market by pretending that coronavirus isn't happening, and not allowing people to have tests so that they couldn't confirm that a pandemic was happening. He wanted the pandemic to just blow over and people to die without taking action. And once he realized, I guess, that he had to acknowledge it, that it was going to be too significant to pretend, it wasn't happening. Yes. So you keep looking for your Dr. Dina Grayson quote. I'm going to share an Australian article, just because there are some similar things that are happening around the world. In Australia, an anonymous doctor's reporting that when they asked their department why couldn't they have access to more protective gear, they were told that if they were given more protective gear, that might lead to doctor complacency about hand washing, which is the most insulting and ridiculous, it's laughably ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Not to give health workers the gear they need, but to provide a justification that says you might be more careless with your hand washing in the middle of this pandemic if we give you protective gear. So I will see if I can find that for you guys right now. Oh, Paul's sending me direct messages as well to try and help you come on. Everybody wanted you to be able to come on and talk with me, Brian. Lovely.
Yeah. Now, there's one thing by Dr. Grayson that she put up here. It said Florida, the third most populous state with a high percentage of elderly, is home to at Walt Disney World and host of notorious spring break. Cases of coronavirus are skyrocketing. And it says Governor Ron DeSantis delayed lockdown until tomorrow. Of course, it's too late. Yeah, he didn't take action quick enough, and he still hasn't taken enough action. Like we said earlier, he's still allowing churches to meet and stuff like that. That's not a lockdown. That's just trying to pacify a few people and say, "Oh, well, we locked down," but we really haven't.
Yes,
and
we haven't. We haven't, and my thought is why? Why would they do this? Why are Republican governors still pretending to be ignorant of the scale and scope of the problem? Why did Brian Kemp lie to the Georgian people and say, oh, we've just heard in the last 24 hours that asymptomatic cases can transmit the virus, that people without obvious signs of being sick can still carry and transmit viral particles? So he said that when apparently, I don't watch Trump broadcast briefings, but for the last 3 weeks, people have been hearing almost on a daily basis from Dr. Fauci and others that asymptomatic carriers can pass on the virus. So why are they lying? Why are they endangering their people? Who does that help? What is their motivation? I think there's room for some speculation about that.
I think it really comes back to bending the knee to Trump, because they're either being offered something or promised something that he may or may not be able to fulfill for them, a cabinet position or whatever it might be, with him thinking he's going to win this next election. I don't know. It's hard to say.
Interesting because they're red states, but and particularly in Florida where there's a higher average age. So if you have a higher death rate in Florida, and that's going to suppress the vote in Florida, is he hoping that people will become so desperate and devolve to such a state of chaos that they will praise Trump as a savior when he emerges with some ventilators for their state? I mean, how much of Trump's behavior can we attribute to just chaotic disorganization, and how much malevolence do we have to start to ascribe to his motivations? That's going to be an ongoing question, I think, for people like you and me to go, how much purposeful genocidal impulses are there fueling Trump's behavior and the behavior of his son-in-law, who has now been put in charge of the COVID-19 response without any qualifications in healthcare or indeed pretty much anything.
Yeah, I don't know I don't know why anybody thought, or I don't even know why Trump would think that putting Jared in charge of anything would be a good idea. But I guess he does.
He's an insider. It's like that old saying of family members don't snitch to the FBI. So you give family members the most power they have because they can do the most corrupt stuff, and they won't be tempted to whistleblow.
But even Trump is he's conniving, but he's conniving in an intelligent way. And I would think that he would have maybe had enough foresight to see through that much and maybe put somebody else close to him, but somebody with a little bit more credentials, because Jared has absolutely no credentials to have anything to do with this.
He has a brother who started a health company. He has.
Yeah, I mean, I could go start a health company tomorrow. Can I take over Jared's job?
No. It doesn't make you competent to do the job, but it makes you competent at grifting.
I understand.
Presumably, what the crisis is for Trump is an opportunity to grift. He's trying to restructure his debt to Deutsche Bank, and he's apparently used a lot of crises before to get out of debt. That's his business model. Borrow money from people under false pretenses, spend it, have unsuccessful businesses, Trump vodka, Trump Airlines, Trump steak, whatever, go bankrupt. And then go, oh, look, there was a crisis. There was a storm. There's the pandemic. I can't pay back my debts. Sorry, suckers. Yeah. And for us, it's like, oh, well, even these Deutsche Bank loans, because all American banks wouldn't lend him money, but these Deutsche Bank loans are quite likely to be guaranteed by Russian oligarchs with connections to Putin. Yeah. I don't know if you remember, Lawrence O'Donnell started reporting on it, and then he had to apologize because there wasn't enough actual sources to go on the record about it. But he kicked off the reporting of that.
Yeah, I do remember a little bit about that when that was going on. One other thing I just saw here too, that as I was going through Dr. Grayson's timeline, the U.S. Navy hospital ship Comfort only has 3 patients as of 3 hours ago when she posted it.
Yes, they issued guidelines ruling out 49 different conditions because they're not accepting
including COVID.
Patients. Yeah, COVID is definitely ruled out, and they were going to take the non-COVID patients, but then there's 49 conditions separate to COVID that they also won't accept passengers from. So ambulances pick up patients, they have to take them to hospitals to fill out big questionnaires, and then if they don't have any of the 49 conditions, they can be taken as patients to that hospital ship. What's it called? The U.S. Mercy?
The Mercy and the Comfort is in New York. The Mercy is in L.A.
Okay, so the Comfort in New York, that's the one with 3 passengers, isn't it? In New York, because, three patients on board that hospital ship, which was obviously announced with great fanfare by Trump, but seems to be
he even flew to Virginia to have it sent off because he wanted to be in the media spotlight, to be sending the ship off to New York to save lives, and it's not doing anything at this point.
It's like
it's actually one of the reports I read said it's actually creating more headache for hospitals because now they're having to screen these people to try and get them to meet the crazy criteria, to be able to actually maybe send them to this hospital ship.
So there's people filling up the waiting rooms. Yes.
Yeah, one of those criteria is you have to have a negative COVID test too. And so, okay, you have one of these 49 conditions, you're out already. And if you're COVID positive, you're out as well. So, I mean, if you've gone there for shortness of breath to the hospital, more than likely they're not going to accept you because they're going to be running a COVID test on you immediately.
And there's a shortage of tests. So having to produce a negative COVID test, you're either somebody who's going to be in the hospital for a while already, for long enough to have been tested and got the results from your test.
Yes.
And then they'll have to disrupt your treatment to take you out of the hospital to send you to the ship. Well, the hospital's probably going to be like, that's barely even worth it as a disruptive thing for us.
Yeah, I mean, I mean, I could see where it could benefit if you had some patients that had been more of a long-term patient. So you had, because there are some patients that will stay in the hospital for a month or two. If you have some long-term patients.
Oh, it's frozen. Sorry, Brian, you're frozen. I don't know if I'm still broadcasting. But while you're frozen, I might bring this up on the screen then, just to have a little walk through that while we wait. I don't know if anybody can see me either. Okay, so you can still see. I just wanted to share with you this Australian article. As a doctor in an emergency department, I worry we'll face coronavirus without the right protection. I wanted to share with you guys an analogy because people are using a lot of wartime analogies now to refer to medical workers, to say they're on the front line and without protective gear, it's like sending your soldiers out to fight in a war without bullets. I'd like to also say, did it naked baby? Okay. All right, so the government tells us we won't run out of personal protective equipment. Our hospitals tell us something different. Regular alerts in our inboxes tell us to be mindful of how we're using PPE because supplies are limited, and we haven't even really begun this fight. There are examples of the hypocrisy and incongruity surrounding PPE use. This is the sentence I wanted to share with you guys. When an emergency doctor in Melbourne recently asked their infection control manager why they were not being supplied with gowns designed to be more protective, the response was that it might cause frontline staff to become complacent about hand washing. So you can just see that the human brain is capable of coming up with all kinds of crazy rationalizations when circumstances are difficult. All right, Brian, you're back. Nope. There you are. Hello.
All righty. That was weird. It said my connection was bad on Chrome, so I don't know.
Oh, you're frozen again. Oh, there you are. Hello. Pumpkins, if you're naked, stay out of the broadcast or use a towel. So people are saying Trump wants to be a war president, but COVID has no flag. Sweetheart, oh, at least you've got underpants on. That's something. All right, so Enlighten Up's mentioning that no pregnant ladies are allowed on the hospital ships as well. It's very, I hope people in America are paying attention to that fact, are getting access to that information. And I want to ask, why are Americans susceptible to those attractive lies, those appealing half-truths? It's like they want to believe positive things of their president. I can understand that, wanting to. But just the degree of resistance to facts and information is seems to be quite high. So I know that my broadcast hopes to reach out to people who are wavering, or to strengthen the command of the facts of those people who aren't wavering, who understand that the federal response continues to be inadequate and almost malevolent in its failures of the American people. I just think they love running back and forth in front of the video. So yes, what is one emotional niche that people are looking to Trump to fill? I think, having seen once a statistic that said Americans distrust atheists above everything, that there is perhaps a revulsion on the part of some Americans to feel that religion is slipping away from Americans. A lot of them say that whole pretend, oh, we were losing Christmas and Trump's restored our power to say Merry Christmas. Well, that wasn't true. People were perfectly free to say Merry Christmas, but let's look at what they're telling us about their emotional state. They felt that being Christian was losing its status and privilege. They were becoming less proud to tell people that they were Christian. They felt that religious influence was diminishing. Now, that's true. What is it, though, that people really look to religion for? Why is it that even less religious people were still voting for Trump as if he's some kind of savior, as if the separation between church and state should end? One thing I think is gratitude, a gratitude deficit. A lot of people talk about millennials as being whiny, and they don't like the degree of negativity that millennials have, or Generation Z. And that's because they don't like dealing with the negative reality of the downsides of modern society, of the industrialization byproducts of greenhouse gases. So I can do something to address that. I can take on extra gratitude. I can adopt prayerful responses. I can say, yes, I am literally now praying in a position of relative impotence. I am praying that the Trump administration look after all its citizens, that it enact the Defense Production Act and nationalize the supply chain so that many of these systemic inefficiencies of states competing against each other and having to engage in bidding wars with other states, which is driving up the prices of ventilators and of protective gear to untenable levels, that can end. Brian's going to reboot his computer. Thanks, Brian. Hi, Mr. Ed. Lovely to see you. Which reminds me, anybody, sweetheart, don't make fun of your mummy. I'm in the middle of a broadcast. It's serious. Is she putting stickers on the back of my head? Okay. I was going to say anybody with any graphic design abilities could be helping us to design logos to spread public health messages, because this messaging should be adopted and coordinated by the federal government. Obviously, Trump sees some advantage for plunging America into chaos. Quite how he thinks that will be an advantage to him, we haven't worked out. But nevertheless, while he's taking that approach, we can try as individuals, as online communities, to remedy some of those deficits. So if any of the people with a propensity for graphic design or talent in that area, or talent for slogans, comes up with more messaging, a lot of people in America will be out there as well. And social media does provide a forum for uptake of good output. So if we come up with catchy messages about staying apart from each other, catchy ways to say, hey, there are advantages to wearing masks, then that is a public service that we can do to help at least minimize the gap between what the Trump administration is offering America, which is woefully inadequate. Oh, there's Brian. Hello, Brian. Matt's asking if Australia has any masks to sell the USA. No, Australia unfortunately took too long to stop domestic export of masks and ventilators. And up until recently, we were allowing our Australian companies to export those products to China and to other countries. So we have also suffered a catastrophic failure of leadership in that regard. Yes. Hi, Brian. Thanks for coming back.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, can hear.
Good. All right. Sorry, I haven't rebooted here in a couple of days, so probably just needed to be rebooted.
So someone is asking if Australia had any masks to sell the USA. I said, unfortunately, no. I think we've just halted domestic export because until recently our companies were exporting masks away from Australia. Australia does need those. As I was just saying, the doctors are reporting shortages of masks. They're reporting this anonymously because they're being discouraged by hospital administrations from going public with these truths, that they're being encouraged to violate their normal protocols, that they're conserving materials that they would normally throw away. And some of my relatives who work in healthcare are purchasing masks for themselves. I saw a report today that various people in New York are now turning to making masks for themselves out of stationary supplies, just in an effort to have some protection where none is available.
One of the nurses that I work with, he and both his fiance were previously dancers. He's a nurse. She's a doctor.
Wow.
And when they were both dancers, she was the seamstress for their production company. So she has started making masks for people at work and at her work, and for him to bring in. And they're putting in filters that can be taken out and discarded and thrown away, and put new filters in.
Reusable element, yes.
Yes.
Awesome.
So the mask itself can be washed, and then the filter itself can be discarded.
Yes, because the virus is susceptible to normal cleaning protocols like soap and bleach and other things, I would imagine, as well as hydrogen peroxide vapor. I'll see if I can get that resource for you guys. There's a cleaning protocol with hydrogen peroxide vapor.
I know we are using alcohol-based cleaners to do all of the disinfecting of anything.
Awesome.
Those have, as far as we know, have been proven to work. And then the other thing that they are doing anytime there's a COVID positive that leaves a room because either they've gotten better or passed away, they are using what they call TrueD, which is a UV disinfection system where they bring in this huge light bulb of UV light and close all the doors and blast the room with UV for an hour.
Yep. Wow. They blast the room with UV. That sounds awesome. I've always wanted there to be an invention of for home use UV decontamination system so that I could just decontaminate my shoes. But now that I live in Asia, I just do what Asian people do and take off my shoes before I enter the house, and then have a separate pair of home shoes to wear. And that is actually a much better system than having to purchase an ultraviolet light for use in the home. But yes, I'm glad that your hospital has these systems. I'm just going to create a banner here so I can share one link for, oops. Oh, I'm running out of battery, so that's something. Okay, so there we, oh, nope, that is not the thing I wanted.
Yeah, disinfectants at the store near me were totally bare as well. Same thing with paper products. We couldn't find any toilet paper or paper towels the last time we went to the grocery store. I've actually, for myself personally, I have purchased a half face respirator with P100 filter cartridges that go on the outside of it.
Oh, wow.
So it's like one of those big painting masks where you got these two cartridges that stick off right here.
Yeah, I've seen those. Awesome.
And that's actually what I'm going to take in and wear to work if I have a COVID patient. And we have other nurses doing that at my facility as well.
Purchasing their own masks for use in them.
Yeah, the ones that they've been purchasing have been N95 rated. The one I got was a P100, which is it's actually better than a N95.
It screams out things of even smaller micron.
Yes, it does.
Okay, bear with me. I just realized my laptop's not plugged in to charge battery, so I can do that and then not run out of battery. One sec.
Okay. Yeah, so like the UV disinfection works very well. They use that for a couple different things in the hospital. So they're using it for this now. They have used it in the past as well for trying to think of the other infection. I can't think of it. But the UV disinfection disrupts the RNA sequencing in viruses and bacteria. So it actually kills them.
Yep. That's nice. Yeah, so the virus can be cleaned off with soap, with alcohol, with UV light to disrupt the RNA sequencing, etc., with hydrogen peroxide vapor, lots of things. And there are some good online strategies now for making masks at home, which are not going to be as fancy as your, what was it, P100 rated painter's mask, but would be adequate for use at the shop, particularly for not having sustained exposure to other people. Because in Brian's work, you need it because you're exposed to patients. There's a higher viral load associated with prolonged exposure to people suffering from a severe case of the virus.
And one of the things in like Asian culture where they do wear the masks for personal protection in public, what a lot of people need to realize too is that the average person that's out there that's sick, if they're coughing or sneezing, those droplets do really only travel 6 feet. It's not until they're aerosolized that they can travel further or stay suspended in the air longer. And that's the type of situation that we end up working in the hospital, where some of these droplets can be aerosolized and just hang around in the air for much longer amount of time due to treatments that they're receiving.
Well, there is some concern now that outside of procedures like pressure, what was it? Not negative pressure ventilators, positive pressure breathing systems that might aerosolize people's nasal.
Yeah, the positive pressure ventilators do aerosolize the virus from people because they're pushing so much air into the person. They actually are required to have a certain amount of leak around the mask. So the mask fits over the face just like this. And then there should be a little bit of leak coming out of the bottom for most people. And they look at the amount of leak as to, well, how good the fit is. If it's too tight, it actually can be damaging to the person. So they want a little bit of a leak so it's not hurting the person. Some of those systems that we have at my hospital, I was actually speaking with a respiratory therapist. They actually have the ability to take those machines and change the mode on them and actually turn them into ventilators as well, which I was not aware of. And she said she wasn't even aware of that with these particular machines until they started doing training on it the other day. So that gives us another probably 20 or 30 ventilators just at my hospital.
That's awesome. So research has helped you step up. I did hear that Elon Musk promised to give 8,000 ventilators to people. And once he'd done that, they found out that they weren't ventilators. They were non-intrusive ventilators, which are less efficacious type of ventilators that are just like an oxygen mask for your face, like a CPAP. CPAP? What's the breathing?
CPAP, causative or continuous positive airway pressure. BiPAP is bi-level positive airway pressure. It depends on which machines he is getting, if they are BiPAP or CPAP.
I think they might have been BiPAP.
Yeah, BiPAP machines can be reconfigured to be used as ventilators if the software and the correct hardware is attached to them.
Okay.
And that's the machines that we have at work that they are able to change. They are actually CPAPs that he provided.
No, BPAP. B. Hang on, I'll bring up the article.
Oh, a BPAP?
BPAP.
Okay. It would be a BiPAP, B-I. So it would be, I
would just, I didn't see an I.
No? Okay.
No. The Financial Times has got an article about it. So I'm just scrolling down. Oh, yeah, bi-level positive airway pressure, also called a BiPAP. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, those can be reconfigured fairly simply to be used as a ventilator, according to my respiratory therapists that I work with. Okay.
All right. So the things he donated. So I'm just going to share with this to people because it's interesting and it fits into a narrative I want to undermine, that billionaires can solve all problems for America, and that that libertarian ideology that government is inherently bad and that billionaires are so much more capable of solving problems. So here's Elon Musk undermining the seriousness of the coronavirus. He said there's considerable conflation of diagnosis and contraction of corona. Actual virality is much lower than it would seem. World War Z, it is not. So that was Elon Musk on January the 31st. It would be okay to say the coronavirus panic is dumb, provided you said it's important still to be very alert and cooperative with and compliant with directives from scientists and healthcare professionals. But he doesn't say that. He just undermines it. So kids, yes, are not immune. So Elon Musk is saying kids are essentially immune. They're not. They're getting the disease. They possibly play a significant role in disease transmission. The research isn't, the evidence for that isn't there yet. But yes, so Elon Musk's tweet still remains online. I'm going to go report it because he shouldn't be leaving tweets up there that says kids are essentially immune when that wouldn't appear to be the case on the strength of emerging research. Elon also tweeted that based on current trends, probably close to 0 new cases in the US by the end of April. Can you guys see what I'm reading?
When was that?
So
March
he tweeted 19th? That on the 19th of March. Yeah.
Wow.
So this guy is seriously off the delusional deep end.
I mean, Elon may be a smart guy, but he's not a doctor, and I would not go to him for medical advice.
No. And the thing is, he does have millions of followers, and people do look to people like him for intelligent commentary. I mean, just as people are listening to us, you're a medical professional, I'm a childhood development trained professional. But yes, we don't have anything close to the reach that Elon Musk is saying, and he's distributing actively harmful information. It's some of that flip side of that unnecessary or overwrought reverence for billionaires. Reverence is the word I want. There's a lot of American reverence for billionaires. Some of that needs to go. So here he is donating hundreds of ventilators to New York City and state. Bill de Blasio thanking him and saying he's deeply grateful. So 40 ventilators, okay. And then they've sticky taped Tesla logos covering the boxes, even though Tesla didn't make the ventilators. ResMed made them, but he's sticking Tesla on the boxes so that people know in the publicity shots that, yep.
It's a PR thing.
PR thing, yes. But then they are some bi-level positive airway pressure machines, which are used to treat sleep apnea, but potentially can be converted to ventilators. All right. So one of these will set you back about $800, but that's different from an ICU grade ventilator, which can cost as much as $50,000. Whew.
Yep. Yeah, they're not cheap.
All right.
Just the ICU beds that we use are $40,000 a piece, US.
Sorry, how much?
About $40,000 US for a bed.
Wow, for bed.
Yeah.
Lordy. All right,
it does a lot of things, but it's not very comfortable.
Yeah, I'm not looking forward to ever being ventilated. So there's the Financial Times article. If people want to read for themselves or share what it is that Elon Musk has done in terms of promoting disinformation to his extremely broad millions of loyal followers, and then falsely promoting what he's done as if he's donated actual ventilators when he's donated much cheaper machines. So that's for people there that want to read along with that. Now, I should go and hang out with my family soon. Was there anything else that we should cover for today that you can think of, Brian?
I don't know. People need to continue to social distance. People need to reach out if they are in a red state, or if they're even in a blue state that hasn't totally shut down. Reach out to your governor, write letters, write emails, call your representatives, call whoever you can, write emails to whoever you can to put the pressure on them. Because that's what's going to make them cave in and actually do something good for people is putting pressure on them.
Yes.
I've been writing DeSantis every day, sending him an email.
Yeah.
And I've been getting other people I work with to do it. Not so much my Trumpy friend that I work with, but other people I've talked them into it. I said, hey, and even a girl that I work with who's she's not even a U.S. citizen. Well, she has citizenship, but she can't vote.
Okay.
She's from the Bahamas originally.
It's Bahamas. I was going to say Puerto Rico, but
yeah,
okay.
She's from the Bahamas. But her mother's here visiting after she had her baby, so she has a new baby at home as well.
Yep.
And her husband is a police officer, so I mean he is an essential employee as well. Yep. So she's lucky that her mother kind of got stuck here at this point.
Yes.
Because they're both working extra at this point.
Wow. Here I'm seeing increasing numbers of headlines about police officers contracting coronavirus, which I
don't think that necessary steps are being taken to protect law enforcement and even first responders like like EMTs and paramedics and firefighters. I don't think that they have the supplies that they need. But when you're a police officer, I think that your mindset is not, oh, I need to put a mask on. Your mindset is assess the situation, make sure nobody has a gun, make sure there's nothing dangerous here. Their mindset is a lot different than those of healthcare professionals. Yes. What they're looking for is a lot different than those of healthcare professionals. So I don't think that that's really something they're thinking about, unfortunately.
It would take a significant change. There would have to be some significant directives and help people overcome that psychological discomfort that we all have with change. Yes. We don't want to be destabilized for no reason. We need to be told it's necessary and it's compulsory. That's 2 steps that have to precede any behavioral adjustments that people make, that it's necessary, that it's compulsory. So we're unlikely to see leadership like that from the federal government. I guess we're looking to blue state governors to lead and mayors to lead, even mayors within red states to lead at a smaller level. So for people to just see the importance of using their time at home to still be vocal, to still be little communication hubs that send emails, that make public pronouncements, that write letters and hold them up. I used to see social media campaigns where people would write information about themselves and hold it up to be part of a bigger campaign. We almost need one of those to say, enact the DPA, which Trump has ostensibly done, but he's not effectively doing. He's still not using it to organize domestic production at the level that it needs to be organized to.
Well, he needs to fully enact the Defense Protection Act or Production Act. Yes. But he hasn't, and I don't think he's going to until he feels enough pressure. And I think it's going to take a lot. It's going to take a lot to get that much pressure on him to where he's willing to change his mind. Yes,
there's so much inertia involved in his commitment to not helping the American people. So when we say it clearly like that, I'm trying to practice saying it nice and clearly so that Trump isn't helping people. We're not just saying this because we're overjoyed that he's failing so badly. We're not overjoyed at all. I think Joe Biden would have won against Trump without the coronavirus. In any case, he's more popular, he's got a high profile, and the economy was weakening in ways that the mainstream media weren't broadly discussing, but the ripples of it were being felt in battleground states such as Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, Michigan. People were already feeling the pressure that the Trump economy was creating on their manufacturing industries as a consequence of Trump's incompetence in relation to tariffs. So Trump's stupid trade wars, malevolent, dictatorial trade wars. Not dictatorial because he did have the power to do that, but just relentlessly imprudent trade wars. That fit in very much with fascism and shows of macho strength, but poor outcomes and consequences for the people unfortunate enough to be led by such a reckless, feckless, self-interested, self-serving leader. So I'm trying not to get carried away with that because I want to sound very solutions oriented, want to build a
Yeah.
base of people who go, okay, what can we do? Because there are things. Americans have to lead for their president. They have to be very specific in their demands of what the president needs to do to try and create enough pressure to overcome the president's inherent impulses to kill Americans. And you'd hope it wouldn't be a lot to deter the president from negligently killing millions of Americans, but it will take a lot, and it is taking a lot. We need to help be and organize that lot, that effort, that energy, those voices to say, make us the equipment we need. It's not just giving front row soldiers, i.e. healthcare professionals, the bullets they need in the fight against coronavirus. It's helping stop professionals from becoming literal bombs of infective transmission, because healthcare workers that get infected aren't just in danger for themselves. They aren't just endangering their families. They're endangering the vulnerable community of hospital patients and potentially endangering their own communities as well if they have any interactions with anybody. So they're at the forefront. They don't just need bullets. They need to not be weaponized themselves by being unnecessarily infected through easily preventable lack of personal protective equipment. And when I say easily preventable, I mean easily is a subjective word. It doesn't come easily to Trump to do what's necessary for the American people and for American healthcare workers, but it's still something that needs to be done.
Yeah, exactly. He's not willing to help at this point. And I think that we need to, as individuals, like I said, reach out to your governors, reach out to your mayors, write letters, write emails, call these people, call your senators, put pressure on them. I know even back when the impeachment trial was going on, I called Rick Scott and Marco Rubio every day. I knew it wasn't going to make a bit of difference, but I called them every day because I wanted my voice to be heard. I wanted somebody to hear that message. And that was the most I could do at that point.
We need to be making videos of our calls, and it can't be me because I don't have a senator to call, but people need to start recording themselves. So 2 phones, one phone they're calling their senator's office and the other phone recording that and posting it to Twitter to set an example, to create our own contagion of pressure on leaders at every level of government to do the right thing, to take care of healthcare workers and consequently their communities.
I could do something very easily like that. I could actually do a short video. I'll try and do that tomorrow when I call DeSantis again. I'll set up my iPad, take a little video, and then post that to Twitter.
That's so awesome, Brian. Fantastic. Because that's exactly the approach we need to take to consider doing things we wouldn't normally do. These are not ordinary times, and we have to relinquish a lot of considerations that we normally would have had around not wanting to stick our neck out or be seen to be officious or doing something that's not necessarily our place to do. We have to step out of line at this point because we are literally fighting for the lives of people in our families, in our communities, and consequently the economic ties that allow us to eat and have shelter as well.
Yeah, exactly.
So fantastic. I'm so glad I've given you that idea then, Brian. I can tick off, be useful for today. And I hope anybody who's listening, I haven't seen, and there's 36 comments that I've been ignoring accidentally because I went into the banner creation section. So let's check. We have some people saying, yes, soldiers have guns but aren't contagious bombs. People are talking. We have a thank you for our hard work in keeping them well informed. Thank you for thanking us. We have a Christian saying, I would love to share with you what I do, but most importantly, what Christ can do to change our world. Look, if you can dress up as Christ and send a message out, because what would physically distancing Christ do? He would not say, come unto me, little children. He would say, keep your distance, little children. We're trying not to transmit a potentially lethal virus that will overwhelm our hospital systems and lead to a lot more avoidable deaths, even outside of our direct COVID deaths.
I could tell you what Jesus would do. He would get supplies to people, and he would get ventilators to people, and he wouldn't be so partisan and
Yes.
up for re-election.
Yes. Yes. I mean, Jesus started his own political movement in a way. He was, I can see that Bernie Sanders has clear Jesus aspirational positions, because Jesus was like, I'm not here to work with the system. I'm here to break the system. He was setting himself up against the structure of the Jewish religion at the time. He was a Jewish person going, let's flip the table. He literally flipped the tables of the moneylenders and the temples. And he was saying, hey, no piecemeal social engineering for me. I'm going to flip it. I think he even destroyed a fig tree for not giving him fruit. So there was an element of vindictiveness in his reported actions that we don't dwell on. We just dwell on that example that a lot of people have derived comfort or hope or ambition and energy from. That is the motivation to help others and to see how that can give birth to societies where people are looked after and there are safety nets, and you don't let people fall through the cracks. You don't ignore the lepers. You don't ignore the prostitutes. You humanize people. So that is one of the nicest legacies of Jesus, was that idea. And I'm Jewish, so I'm not very up with the legacies of Jesus. But from what I can see as an outsider, the positive pro-social legacies of the teachings of Jesus as reported on through the New Testament is that humanizing discourse, that people count.
Yeah, that's very true. I think that, I don't know, I think that the whole message of Jesus was kind of lost, and it still is kind of lost with current American religious kind of zealots.
It was replaced by the prosperity gospel, wasn't it? That idea.
It really has been. It's your Paula Whites and your Joel Osteens now. With these mega churches, and all they're doing is asking you for donations, and they will heal your ailments, and they will pray for you, and you will become rich, or whatever it is that they're promising.
Scheme. It's a pyramid scheme. They're like, buy into our pyramid scheme and get eternal wealth, but you don't actually see a big return on your profits. You just keep hoping.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Actually, not a return on your profits, a return on your investment. You just keep hoping.
Yeah, return on investment. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's actually just the people at the top raking in the profits, and all of you little subsidiary people in the pyramid, you don't get the prosperity. You just get the hope of prosperity. Because
it's all at the top of the pyramid.
Yeah. Yeah. They're getting all the donations, and you just keep sending them the money and your labor and time and energy. But what you get out of it is that reinforcement for a worldview that wealth awaits you, that you will soon get wealthy, just around the corner.
The more I've actually looked into the actual pyramids themselves, and looked into some of the history and the construction and how they are made, and you think about it, they're made with all these bricks underneath that are supporting everything up top. And what's up top originally on the pyramids, they were covered in a sandstone, a smooth sandstone, and at the top they suspect that they were covered in a gold piece on the very top. So I mean, that even brings more relevance to the term pyramid scheme when you think about what a pyramid might have actually looked like 3,000, 5,000 years ago.
A gold vertice and and bricks at the bottom.
Yeah, exactly. All these bricks holding up the gold.
People like to be part of something bigger than themselves. So some people will accept their status as a brick in their belief that, well, they're part of a good construction that is a pyramid. So some people don't mind not getting that gold or not being part of that gold vertice at the top. But I want to give them something else. And this is sometimes why human history goes in cycles, because you have prosperity and complacency until things fall apart. And then you have enough division and these artificial reasons to hate other people, just born out of misdirected energy of, oh, well, I've got no actual risks right now, so I'm going to make up some risks and be afraid of people for no good reason, leading to failures of diplomacy and war and conflict, until eventually people pull back and go, oh, wow, look at that carnage. Let's pull together again. Let's all stick together. So apparently even pandemics help bring out a lot of pro-social energies in people. So that's good. I'm going to try and keep harnessing that and share things for making masks. I think the more we involve and invite people to do that, to make masks for hospitals or for their own use, both. Start for a mask for your family and yourself, sure. But if you can make hospital grade masks that are better than nothing, using those using vacuum cleaner bag cutouts for the disposable filter parts, things like that, things that people can do, the more actions they take, the more they'll get emotionally invested in understanding that this is a war. This is a wartime footing that we need to be on, because it is a war. And reality often eludes people until it's right in their face, but we can bring people into that reality at an earlier stage through just the logical implications of taking action. Once you take action to address a problem, it grows your conviction that the problem actually exists. So I think we should try to exploit America's craftiness as much as we can. People having time at home, I'm going to stop just saying stay at home and watch Netflix. I'm going to say stay at home and read these articles on how to make masks and how to use household items to make masks for not only your family, but potentially to donate to hospitals. Yeah. And I know there's a Twitter account of a doctor who's, I think, leading that effort, actually. So I'll look her up now so I can find her. Her name is K.D. Senholz, I think. And I'll find her, hopefully. Okay.
Yeah, I actually recently discovered Twitter lists. I never knew what they were before. So I figured out how to use them and make private lists. I've actually been clumping all doctors into a list so I can follow just them in their threads and see different things that some doctors are saying. And that I find that very helpful.
Yes.
So I never knew how lists work before. So I just recently found this information out.
I haven't been using them myself, but it would be very useful. I still haven't found my. Oh no! I nearly just found it. She flashed up on screen for a second and then went away again. Rats. Okay, fine. I'll type in. There we go. Okay. So I found the account, so I can share that now. Her hashtag that she's using is #masksnow.
Okay.
All right. So this is her account. I'll turn it into a banner as well.
Mm-hmm. I'm going to screenshot that so I can get it later.
Yeah. Actually, I can bring it up on screen as well. Here we go. So she's the founder of Masks Now, and she has been helping organize people to sew masks. So she's got 85,000 followers, which is not to be sneezed at. And she's got a website, masksnow.org. So if you can't sew, 2 things you can do: get others to sew, help with organizing your state. Peak number of cases heading at us like a freight train. Yes. All right. So that is a hashtag I will also put up as a banner. #masksnow. Done. And also masksnow.org. Super helpful. All right, that's my helpful thing for the day. Brian's going to possibly make a video of his call to his governor, Ron DeSantis, and that's a great example for the rest of us. Anybody who is currently living in America and can do that, may wish to help build up the momentum and the pressure on prevailing upon leadership at any and all levels to take those necessary steps to slow that freight train heading at us of coronavirus deaths. And one thing that Twitter does, which I think is very useful, is allow people to share their stories of family members who are currently diagnosed with the condition or who have passed away, because people need to stop dismissing the pandemic as something that only affects elderly people. That's one really critical thing, I think, Brian, is that it feeds into any kind of social Darwinism.
It's a stereotype, and it's a very negative stereotype because people are thinking that they can't get it. I can tell you right now, we have a less than middle-aged individual at my hospital who probably will die in the next day or so if they do not start turning around. And we're doing everything possible for that patient. They are ventilated, they're paralyzed, they are sedated, they are on what we call a rotoprone bed, where they're using prone therapy to lay him down face first, lay this person down face first, to help open up the airways, open up their lungs, because that's one of the few therapies that we can do that is showing some promise, but it doesn't work for everybody. I mean, and this person was in a family where multiple people have been diagnosed with COVID. Another family member who is elder, this person, their spouse who has developed mild cases. So it hits everybody from all ages. I saw a case of I think it was a 17-year-old girl, absolutely no comorbidities, healthy, in Texas, that died. That somebody had posted. I think that was on Facebook the other day. So I mean, it's affecting people of all ages, and I got in an argument with somebody on Twitter the other day, and I had to block them because they're telling me it's the flu, it's just the flu, and I'm like, no, it's not the flu. It is so much more. And they said, well, people die of the flu, and they're saying that Italy's death toll is being hyperinflated because it's not COVID deaths; they're dying of other things. I'm like, no, the number of deaths are related to COVID, and they wouldn't listen to me. So I was like, you know what, I'm
stuck in a bubble of
I'm blocking you.
Yeah. Save your energy, conserve your energy for effective uses of your time, and that person is sunk, unfortunately. So it's good to know when to wash your hands and block.
They don't get it, and I hope nobody in their family gets it. But it's not something to shake your head at. It's not something to play down.
Yeah. Someone's asking if vaping is any sign of being a factor.
I don't know that there's enough evidence one way or the other with vaping. I mean, we still don't know the ramifications of vaping as a whole at this point because it's still so new. I mean, there's decades and decades of research in smoking. We know it causes cancer. We know it causes lung disease. We know it does all these different things that it does, causes coronary artery disease, causes all these different things. But with the vaping, I mean, it's so new that I don't know that there's enough long-term data out there to be able to apply it to anything COVID at this point.
Yeah, it is associated with respiratory damage for some people. And I think at this point, you'd want to be erring on the side of conserving respiratory function as much as you can. So if you did vape, now would be a good time to kick that habit. Is it lunchtime? Ask your father. What does he say? I better go feed these children.
Okay.
I just will bring up Dina for a second because we might listen to her because she's got some choice words, I believe, for the Trump administration. Is it time to make muffins? What did Daddy say was for lunch? Mummy can make. Not lunch yet? Okay.
Is it time to make muffins?
Let's make muffins this afternoon. Bella, muffins for lunch. You want a sandwich? Mummy can make you a sandwich in there, okay?
And muffins.
Okay.
I don't think you're sharing. Yeah.
It's not. The audio's not on? Thank you.
Yeah, audio's not sharing. Yeah.
I will fix it.
Okay.
All right. Okay. Thanks for letting me know, Brian.
No problem.
Coming pandemic in this country for several months.
Hang on. I'll start at the beginning.
And the reality is,
sorry. Here we go.
I think Mr. Trump is going to try to spin this, but what he's going to find very quickly is that you can't spin death. And the reality is that older folks are unfortunately much more severely affected by this virus. Older folks tend to be Republicans more often than Democrats in this country. And so I think that he's in a very difficult position. But look, let's step back. I am viewing this as from a public health perspective, as a physician, a scientist, and an expert in these viral pandemics. And I've been raising the alarm about this oncoming pandemic in this country for several months.
Nope. First.
And who are his first two picks? Secretary Mnuchin, the Treasury Secretary, and Larry Kudlow, an economic advisor. I mean, it's very clear what the Trump administration's priorities have been. It's been the markets, his political future, rather than the lives of the American people.
And yesterday, we saw him tweeting that fake news was the reason for the market drop that we saw. He has this nothing to see here approach. So,
all right, so that's a little bit dated in that Trump is past the nothing to see here approach. Yep. Oh, and a major Atlantic hurricane potentially, hurricane season, which is likely to relate to the ramping up of natural disasters because of the warming planet, the 1 degree increase in temperature. So that's a sign. And she also thinks that it's both. It's a positive sign to see the media finally questioning whether what they are witnessing is ignorance or malice. That is good. I'm going to check what they were saying that in relation to. Is there any actual media? No, they're not linking to any actual media thing that I can see, but still, it's being talked about that people are questioning, is it ignorance or malice? Potentially both. That is a good sign. People need to be questioning that. We need levels of public information to increase. Thank you so much to anybody who's been on board with us listening to Brian and I talk today. And take care of yourselves. Take care of all of yourselves.
Yep.
And masksnow.org if you want patterns and encouragement for how to coordinate with others making masks. And yes, thank you so much, Brian. Anything you'd like to say as a concluding remark?
Call your governors.
Call your governors.
Put pressure on them.
Yep.
Call your mayors. Call whoever. Call your senators. Even if they're Republican senators, call them. Put the pressure on them. Let them know that you aren't sitting by idly while this is all happening. And get your friends to do it. If you get one other person to do it, that's 2 calls.
Yes.
If they get one other person to do it, if you can get 2 people, if everybody gets 2 people to call, that it's an exponential growth at that point.
Yes.
And that's what
That's
we're learning
like
with
the
this virus. Exponential growth of the virus. Let's get some exponential growth of people contacting our elected leaders and putting pressure on them.
Let's get high transmission of this compulsion to make those calls, to put that pressure on. So however you make that call or you write that email, do it as visibly as you yourself are comfortable with personally, because setting that example, showing others what you're doing, can inspire them even without direct pressure from you on your friends. So make it as public as you can, according to your own personal dictates of conscience and comfort, and call those governors, make those demands, not requests, demands, for shutdowns, for financial relief of people most severely affected by the shutdown. And I don't mean a rich person losing a significant amount of money. I mean people most severely affected in terms of a reduction in their ability to obtain food and shelter and pay bills. So we need a 2-pronged relief from leadership of relieve us through suppressive measures of the viral transmission, by shutting things down, by outlawing church gatherings, by encouraging churches to go online, to use Zoom or whatever it is that they need to still find kindred spiritship or religious worship through the internet. It's doable. And also to provide direct cash payments to those people who are most vulnerable of losing their homes, of losing their ability to buy food for themselves and their families, and pay the bills that they need to get the lights on and the water on, particularly water, which is needed for hand washing. All right.
Yeah.
Brian just asked if Canada can invade and take us over. Yep. No, we're sticking with our concrete solutions here of exponential increase in public pressure. Let's make that viral. Thanks so much, Brian. You take care.
All right. Thank you.
Bye,
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye. End broadcast.